Countdown by Ben Mikaelsen. Chapter 7. Vincent Audiobook. Vincent Audiobook ignored the biting pain in his back from the lion's attack. Shifting winds and hunger had made the herd even more wild as Vincent struggled to drive the cattle toward the Engang. He knew of herders who had lost all of their herd. For this, forgiveness came hard. Even the loss of 3 would bring punishment. This was the way of the Maasai. Dust from the herd rose like a cloud as they neared the Engang. The blood-red sun already touched the ground. Vincent wrapped his red toga tightly around his injured back. Children near the Engang played hand games with chunks of charcoal. They looked up and waved. Vincent's mothers, Penina and Nasha, came and prodded the troubled cattle into the corral. They knew without being told that 3 cows were missing. Vincent explained what had happened. Penina nodded. Nasha frowned with doubt. Vincent did not tell of his injury. Truth held no honor if it needed proof. "Tell your father what has happened," Nasha ordered. Vincent nodded. This he did not need to be told. Vincent found his father, Tom, sitting outside the small hut, a wildebeest fly whisk in his hand. So sick was Papa that sweat beaded his forehead even in the evening's cool air. He swatted at flies Vincent could not see. Vincent bowed in respect until Tom reached and weakly touched his head. Vincent swallowed hard. "Papa, a lion has attacked the herd. It killed 1 cow. 2 more have run away. I cannot find them." Tom studied Vincent through reddened eyes. "This lion, did you kill it?" "2 times I threw my spear, but the lion did not die. She ran away." "Where did you lose the cows?" As Vincent explained the place, he saw Penina walking beside her small hut. She glanced up, but Vincent knew she could not help him. Tom stood. Fighting pain, he entered his small hut, and returned with a thin stick. He stared at the bloodied and broken spear still in Vincent's hand. He did not see the torn skin under Vincent's toga. "How do I know the blood on your spear is not from a rabbit?" he asked. Vincent blinked. "Because I have told you it was from a lion, and I do not lie." "You know the ways of the Maasai," Tom said. Vincent nodded. Without being told, he bent forward at the waist and waited. Sickness had not made Tom's arm weak. He raised the stick. 10 times he struck Vincent's back. Each blow drove the pain of the lion injury like a spear into Vincent's body. Vincent bit his lip to hold back his screams. He stared at the ground. Each blow brought new thoughts to his head. He thought of Sambike and of the wood school. He remembered taking honey from the bees' nests without being stung. He remembered a time when questions did not fill his head. He remembered a time years ago when he still wished to be a warrior. These and many more things he remembered. When the caning stopped, Tom slapped Vincent's head with his hand. "I strike your head because your mind does not think." Next he swatted Vincent's ear. "I strike your ear because it will not listen." Vincent spoke strongly. "Papa, I have done no wrong." Tom glared at Vincent. "My words do not find your ears. You think only of Sambike and of the wood school. You do not think of the cattle. A dog cannot guard 2 homes. Go, leave the Engang. Go, find another place to guard." Tom sat heavily on his stool. The heads of peeking children ducked behind the small huts. Vincent knew not to speak again. He turned and walked away. This caning had not been as hard as many given in Maasailand. The greatest pain came to Vincent's heart, because Papa had not believed him. Now Vincent knew he must leave the Engang. Only when a respected elder asked Tom for forgiveness, only then could Vincent return. This was the way of the Maasai. Penina came to Vincent's small hut as he made ready to leave. She brought a calabash of milk and blood to drink. There is nothing so bad that it cannot be forgiven, she said softly. I have done no wrong, Vincent said. Penina put a finger to her lips. Shh! In 3 days' time, come to me. I will find an elder to speak to your father. Vincent moved stiffly from the pain. Penina touched Vincent's shoulder. Are you hurt? Vincent clutched his toga tightly. My hurt is inside. Without speaking, he left the Engang and walked across the countryside toward Sambike's. In his hands he carried all that was his knobkerrie, a walking stick, and his broken spear. The night had chased away all of the day when Vincent reached the infirmary. The generator machine growled, making the lights glow brightly inside. Vincent knocked. Tijinga, Sambike called. Vincent entered. Sambike sat at the table, with the black box. He turned. Dreamer boy, it is late. Do you like tempting the lions? Without speaking, Vincent approached to have his head touched. Then he turned his back and let the red toga fall away to show his injuries. Sambike stared at the claw marks and the deep welts from the caning. Vincent, he exclaimed, standing, what has happened? Quietly, Vincent explained. Now Papa has sent me away from the Engang. He said I have no place to go. You have this place, Sambike said. Sit, I will treat your back. Vincent sat quietly until Sambike returned, carrying 2 bottles, some white cloth, and a tube with a needle. Vincent had seen Sambike use big needles to put medicine into people's arms. Now Sambike used such a needle to fill a tube with medicine that looked like water. I do not need that, Vincent insisted. His stomach wanted to give back his last meal. Sambike smiled and wiped a strong-smelling cloth over Vincent's arm. This shot will keep you from feeling worse. Killing a mongoose does not make it feel better, Vincent pleaded. This will not kill you. Look toward the door. Vincent turned his head away and closed his eyes tightly. He felt Sambike pinch the skin on his arm, and then it seemed like a bee had stung him. Vincent turned to peek. Sambike was pulling the needle from his skin. The air felt hot. The chair seemed to tip. Sambike squeezed Vincent's neck gently. You are not afraid to fight a lion, but you fear a small needle. The needle did not attack the herd, Vincent mumbled, squirming. The Maasai do not use needles. If you do not like the white man's ways, then why did you come here? Asked Sambike, as he cleaned the wounds, biting his teeth against the pain. Vincent did not answer. He thought about the white man's ways. They were so different. At the Engang, the Oloboni and the Pangishiu used herbs and chants to heal, but the healer's medicine did not always help. Vincent let a thought come from his mouth. Sambike, Papa says the white man will not last. Why does he say that? He says the white man has forgotten the ways of the ancients. Sambike nodded. What he says is true. Will the Maasai last? Sambike shrugged. The Maasai are like bull elephants. Many arrows do not bring them down, yet they trip over a creeping plant. Change is the creeping plant that makes the Maasai fall. The wisdom of the ancients is still in our heads, but there is much we refuse to see. Vincent puzzled. So change is not good? Change comes like the morning sun. No one can stop it, but one can guide it. Because many white people have forgotten the ways of the ancients. Change has become a mad elephant they no longer control. Sambike paused, placing a bandage over Vincent's deepest gash. Tell me, what does your father say about me? Vincent looked down. He says you are not Maasai. Sambike spoke firmly. In my heart, I will always be a Maasai. A zebra does not lose its stripes because it walks a different path. Finishing, Sambike motioned toward the black box on the table. Before we sleep, Does Dreamer Boy want to talk to someone far away? Someone like me? Sambike shook his head. Change is a wind that blows differently on everyone. You will speak to someone touched by very different winds. Who, Sambike? Who? Vincent asked excitedly. Dreamer Boy, how do you fit so many questions into your mouth? Sit, we shall see who. End of chapter 7.